welcome back to my channel where we talk about plants and the style of ASMR. Today I'm going to be talking to you about how I root my Hoyas, and I'm going to be going through my propagation boxes and sorting the cuttings by which ones have rooted and are ready to be planted, and which ones still need to stay in their prop boxes for a while to develop a stronger root system. It's also been a while since I've watered these prop boxes. When I water them, I usually just spray them, spritz with a water bottle. But it's been a while since I've done that, so I might do that too. So here's box number one. I keep these boxes, they're not boxes, they're containers, I guess, but I keep them behind me here, if you can see. On top of this big plastic bin that I have full of nursery pots and plant supplies. But I have this here in my plant studio, so there's a light up overhead there, a grow light, and these prop boxes here get some of that light. So here's a prop box or container full of mostly Hoyas. Hoyas and one Pseudorhipsalis ramulosa. And these are just takeout containers filled with sphagnum moss, damp sphagnum moss. I made that motion because you wet the sphagnum moss, you soak it in water, and then you squeeze out all the water so that it's just slightly damp. And you line the bottom of the container with the damp sphagnum moss, and then you stick the cuttings in there. And voila, you have a prop box or a prop container. So let's open this and see how they're doing. Interesting. Oh, wow. Okay, let me share this with you. So the sphagnum is mostly dry. I feel some slightly damp pieces, but I definitely would like it to be a little bit more damp than this. So I will wet this down later. I just realized I don't have my spray bottle down here with me, so I'll do that later. But let's look at these cuttings. So you can see them in there. Some out. Okay, so this is the Pseudorhipsalis ramulosa, and when they're hard to pull out like this, you know that they've rooted, which is a good sign. Okay, as I say that, they're just the slight roots, the slightest hint of roots there. I think you can see right there. So these need to stay in there a little bit longer. These have been in here for a long time, honestly. I don't know if this is going to work with them. I might end up putting them in water and seeing if they do any better. And there's some tiny roots there. Root. Okay. But these need to stay in a little bit longer. So I'm going to put these in a pile of plants that need to root for a longer period of time. I'm going to put them behind me. Now I'm going to pull out some Hoya Krimson Queen, and I don't expect these to be very well rooted at all, mostly because this this prop box is not moist enough. I didn't realize it had gotten quite so dry. It needs to retain more moisture than this. So yes, looks like there is no rooting happening. But you can see how beautiful this cutting is. Look how pretty that is. Kind of mad at myself for cutting that off. I don't remember doing that. Don't know why I did that. It's a really beautiful cutting. Anyway, so that goes in the pile of plants that still need to be rooted. This one has some roots to it, as evidenced by its difficulty being removed from the sphagnum. I'm going to need to put this on my lap and use 2 hands. You have to be careful not to break the roots. And I did. No, I didn't. Okay, there we go. So there you see, there's a little root right there. And a little root right there. It's another really pretty cutting. I think I'd still like this to be a little more firmly rooted before I pot it up though. So I'm going to put this in the continue to root pile. Next up we have a Hoya wayetii, and this is definitely rooted. See how much of the sphagnum comes up with it? Okay, so that's all the sphagnum I was able to get off of it. This one's definitely ready to be potted up. The easiest way to get the sphagnum off these roots, and we will want to get the sphagnum off the roots because I don't want these roots to retain that much water once they're placed in soil. I want them to dry out more quickly than the sphagnum would allow for. But I'll probably just soak this whole cutting, roots, sphagnum, leaves, and all in water for a few minutes, and the sphagnum will be much easier to remove at that point once it's no longer as dry. And then I'll be able to pop that up. So that's a Hoya wayetii. Nice little cutting. Cutting. So that's all for pot box number 1. I will set this aside to add more moisture to it a little bit later. If we even end up needing to. Right now, I'm not sure how many of the cuttings are going to need to continue to be rooted. So there we go. On to prop box number 2. Let's open it up. Sometimes I just give it a little sniff because you can sometimes tell if things are going wrong, if things are going awry, just by the smell. If there's a bad smell to it, that sometimes means things are rotting. It smells good. Give you a little look. Sorry if you can hear the yard work that just started up next door. It's annoying. Okay, so let's start pulling things out of here. Well, let's feel the moss first. Okay, this moss is a little more damp. That's perfect. That is the perfect amount of dampness. Okay. Let's pull things out. So in here I have some Hoya pubicalyx splash and some Hoya species of Finis burtoniae, however you pronounce it. Okay, let's see. Oh, I see some good roots. Oh yeah, look at that. None of this wants to come out, so that's great. Okay, well, okay, there is a single leaf that has failed to root. I'm not surprised that it's failed to root. I don't know why I cut that up like that. Maybe it fell off or something. Okay. We'll put that in the pile of continue to root, but I don't have much hope for this. It doesn't look like there's even a node there. That's not even Hoya. This is my string of nickel. Okay, that's why I've never had these root for me. Yeah, at least not like this from leaf cuttings. I think I need to take a large stem cutting of that. But these cuttings were taken to not for the actual cuttings, but to shape the plant. So I think these are probably goners. I'm going to put these in a discard pile. That explains why I have all these single node cuttings. This was an experiment that did not work. Well, it did work. It gave me an answer. So it doesn't produce anything to try to propagate them this way. I think I removed all of those failed string of Nichols cuttings. So let's see the more successful stuff. So this is my Hoya species of Venice, burtoniae. Definitely have some roots going on here. The roots on these are always kind of fine and small, but I have many times successfully rooted these in sphagnum and gone on to plant them at this size, and they've taken and produced new growth already. So these ones are going to be good to go. I think I'm going to go ahead and plant these up. I'm going to put them in the plant pile. I'm assuming they're all going to be similarly rooted. This one, oh, look how nice and healthy those leaves appear. I'm not even going to try to remove all the sphagnum from that right now. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. I love the how pale green, like mint green it is on the back sides. These are pubescent, meaning they're kind of furry a little bit. They've got like a soft texture to them, to the leaves. So those are really fun to touch. This one has lots of roots galore on this one. Wonderful, wonderful. And that's a 3-leaf cutting. 3-leaf. Now let's look at the pubicalyx splash. This is one of my favorite Hoyas. It's a pretty generic, easy to find Hoya, but I just love the leaves. I love the splash on them. I love how dark green they are with the silver flecking. These appear to be very, very well rooted, so I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get these out with one hand. I don't want to rip the roots. Wow, okay. There are really long established roots on this one. Look how pretty that is. Cool. Is this a root? Or I think, no, that's just a piece of sphagnum. But if you're wondering how long these have been in the prop box, I'm also wondering, I don't really remember when I put them in. It's probably been about a month at this point. And it usually doesn't take that long. These are grown, the roots on these are grown more than they need to be for me to plant them up. So I just haven't had time to go through my prop boxes in a while. There we go. Okay, so there's one cutting. Here's another, a single leaf. Got some good little roots on there. Good little roots, good little roots, good little roots, little roots, little roots, little roots. Here's another single leaf cutting. You can see the end of it kind of dried up there, but that's fine because it produced roots out here. I'm so sorry about the yard work. It started in the middle of filming and now I'm too far into it to go back and restart. Here's, wow, another nicely rooted single leaf cutting. Beautiful. 2-leaf cutting. I like to root them as small 1 or 2 leaf cuttings rather than taking a long cutting and rooting it, because I like to put several cuttings together in a pot to kind of fill up the top of the pot, and then they produce new growth and vine from there. So I just like the look of a fuller pot. And the last one, the last of the pubicalyx, that is. Another really nice 2-leaf cutting. Yes, this sphagnum feels much better. Ooh, making a mess, as usual. Okay, we'll put that aside. So in here I can tell already that the sphagnum is probably the correct amount of moist, because you can probably see there's some condensation forming here. If the condensation forms on the top of the container, I usually will let it air out for a while, because I don't like it to stay that moist. I don't want the cuttings to rot. But when there's a little bit of condensation on the bottom here, I know that things are probably going to be okay, and I can actually see some roots even through the plastic, so I know things are going okay in here. In here we have Hoya curtisii and Hoya nicholsoniae, which you'll remember from an unboxing a few weeks ago. So sphagnum moss is dry, but it's still, it can come back to life. It can rehydrate and turn green again, and I'm seeing a few little green pieces in there, which is interesting. That probably means it's a little bit too wet. First on top here we have the nicholsoniae, which I'm going to try to pull out. These have only been in there for like a week or two, I think, but there's some resistance, so I'm assuming they have rooted, and I really don't want to break the roots on this one, so I'm going to use 2 hands. I'm really impressed with how well this is rooted in such a short amount of time. Look how beautifully sun-stressed those leaves are. We've got a lot of roots forming right here and right here. I'm thinking about, with my next batch of propagations, rooting in perlite, damp perlite instead of sphagnum. The sphagnum does really well, but you do have to clean off the sphagnum before you pot it up, because you don't want that much moisture to be retained right near those roots. But with perlite, it's something I add into my soil mixtures anyway, because it helps aerate the soil and it doesn't hold moisture as densely or something as well. So you can just leave the perlite that has attached to the roots, or that the roots have attached to. You can leave the perlite on the roots and just pot them up without having to clean them off. So I might try my next batch of Hoya cuttings in perlite, but we'll see. I'm really happy with how this nicholsoniae has rooted up. That's ready to be potted for sure. Beautiful, beautiful sun stressing. I love that. This one is done well also. It's produced these roots here, but this stem here is rotted, so I do want to cut that off to prevent any of the rot from getting to the plant or the healthy roots. But that's looking really good. It's looking really good. Yeah, and that's ready to pot up also. I love this nicholsoniae. Oh, the leaves, the veining on them, so pretty. Beautiful. And now let's get into the curtisii cuttings, which are just all all strewn about in here, because I disturbed so much of the sphagnum trying to get the nicholsoniae out. All right, these guys are definitely ready to pot up, so I'm not going to try to remove too much of the sphagnum right now. Actually, I have very small roots, but I think we're going to pot them up anyway. I think they'll be just fine. Look how cute that is. I love curtisii. It grows so well for me. Beautiful. then have all rooted together. I'm gonna just soak these to get them apart from each other. No use trying to untangle them now and getting the roots all broken and snapped. So cute. Adorable. The bottom of this one is rotted a little bit. We've only got one or two small little roots. I think I'll probably put it with the others anyway, though. I think it'll be okay. Hoya, I found roots also for me in soil, so even if they show the smallest little roots, I will usually pot them up and they'll be fine. Here's one that has rooted, but the top two leaves are looking a little bit waterlogged, a little bit yellow. I'll probably pot this up, but end up losing those leaves, those two top leaves, which is fine. That is it for the Hoya curtisii. Oops, I have made such a mess on the floor. One pot left. So this I only potted up a couple days ago. I only propagated a couple days ago. And there's lots of moisture on the sides and bottom of the container. This one, this Hoya is for myself. This is the only cutting of this plant I have. The rest that I have gone through are all cuttings of my mother plants. And the cuttings I develop for sale. This one is a starter plant for myself. I don't have a mother plant. This is my mother plant. It's a Hoya Krimson Queen. And I'm not expecting it to have any roots yet because it's really only been a couple days that it's been in here. Lid sounds are one of my favorite ASMR triggers. This isn't the best example of good lid sounds, but you get some of it. You can see this one has really nice, thick green leaves. They've already plumped up a lot from when I got the cutting and put it in here. So that tells me that, oh my goodness, yep, it's got some tiny roots, tiny little roots. I actually also might see a couple potential growth points. Yeah, this one's gonna stay in there a while longer, but it has some roots, and I'm actually gonna let it air out a little bit because that's looking a little waterlogged, little more damp than I'd like it to be. But this cutting is gonna do really well. I can tell. There's so many little nubs, root nubs, and I'm excited to see what this one develops into. So we'll put that back in there and let it continue to root up. And I'm going to revisit the cuttings that I put aside for rerooting. Let's look at them right now. This one definitely, it has no roots at all, so we will continue to root that one. This one has some small roots, and I am going to let it continue to root. So that's pretty good. Out of all those Hoya propagations, it's just these ones that need a little bit more time. And I'm not so surprised. Variegated Hoya, or variegated plants in general, are sometimes harder to root than their solid green counterparts. So we'll give this one a little bit more time, but the rest are ready to go. Thank you for watching.